Let's talk about Mark Carney and the trade talks with President Trump. From what I've heard so far, US did not return the calls since that digital tax fiasco, which was just embarrassing. Apparently, President Trump asked Mark Carney to pause the digital tax for 30 days. And we know how many times President Trump paused the tariffs, right? Whatever we think about the tariffs, it doesn't matter right now. But he asked for the same favor. And what Mark Carney did? He said no. The digital tax will be in effect in, I don't know, a couple of days, right? Once the digital tax was supposed to come to effect, President Trump was like, okay, we're going to pause all the trade talks. And Carney, obviously, elbows down, canceled the digital tax, which is such a bad move. Like, either don't bring it up at all, which I'm in favor of, like you're not trying to negotiate the deal and at the same time stab the partner in the back, right? But no, he decided to bring the digital tax, so use it as a negotiation token. Say, okay, I'll pause it until the negotiation is over. But hey, that's not what he did. So anyway, apparently since then, the US was not returning the calls back to Canada. But somehow CTV News is saying that the lines of communication remain open. So let's see what's that about.
Well, Donald Trump is bragging today about the billions of dollars a month that will flow into U.S. coffers as more than 60 countries feel the pain of today's latest round of reciprocal tariffs. We are already seeing backlash in the U.S. and elsewhere, with countries pushing back and moving away from trade with the states. CTV senior political correspondent Mike Couture now.
Okay, so tell me, if the countries are pushing away, why is Canada not able to make any trade deal with anyone? Like even Mexico was like, no, we're not dealing with you. And to be fair, we have a trade deal, CUSMA or USMCA, whatever you want to call it, which is a three-party deal between US, Canada, Mexico, and Mexico just refused to deal only with Canada, which can kind of feel like a backstabbing US, right? If they would do so, I absolutely understand why they didn't do it, which again, I think it's pretty bad move from Carney trying to go there. From what I've heard, another issue why we still don't have a trade deal is that Canadian part of the negotiation party, right, is trying to renegotiate this deal between Canada, US, and Mexico. It's pretty fresh deal, and there's no issue with that. I mean, obviously, it might be more beneficial for Canadians, but hey, President Trump is still following this deal. So why are we trying to include it into the negotiation about these tariffs, the tariffs that are right now affecting Canada, 35% tariffs? That's just ridiculous.
On the impact on Canada and the global response, Mike.
Well, Sandy, as world leaders attempt to adjust to a trade war with the U.S., the Prime Minister says the lines of communication remain open.
Yes, we're having discussions with the Americans.
Prime Minister Carney wouldn't say when he'll next speak to U.S. President Donald Trump, but Ontario's Premier didn't mince words when asked about how Canadians see the American leader.
He's probably the most disliked politician in the world in Canada.
Nah, sorry, man, but Carney and you are most disliked politicians in the world. How is he still conservative when he has such a liberal ties? It's ridiculous. Yeah, I don't know. I think I don't want to be disrespectful, but let's say people who did not vote for liberals understand that President Trump is not the issue. Again, I said it multiple times. I'm going to say it again. The liberal voters, in my opinion, they voted for Carney because it's definitely easier to say, hey, President Trump is why everything sucks. But no, President Trump is just tip of the iceberg. If we had a strong economy, do you think we would feel the tariffs as much as we do, like normal people? No. However, now, because our economy was pretty shit or pretty bad, again, pardon my French, but I live in Canada, who cares, right? That's why we feel the tariffs so much. And again, so it's easier to blame Trump rather than say, hey, maybe I voted for someone who I shouldn't have. Maybe those past 10 years is my fault, right? And then they hear, oh, elbows up, we're going to deal with Trump. So they voted for Trump. For Carney, right? So again, I don't think President Trump is the issue, and I don't think President Trump is the most hated. I actually keep hearing opinion that we need someone like President Trump. And I definitely agree with this opinion because, look, President Trump is doing what he believes is in the best interest of Americans, right? However, what our Prime Minister does? Nothing. He's all talk. He didn't do anything. He lowered the income tax, which gave us $800 a year. And look how much the prices grew since the elections. $800 probably doesn't even cover 2 months of the increase in prices, right? Anyway, let's carry on with Duck Clown.
In an interview on CNN, Doug Ford tried to explain to Americans that these tariffs are hurting them.
When you see 37,000 Americans have lost their jobs, that can't pay the rent or can't pay a mortgage, put food on their table, and this is just going to grow even more.
A new report from Yale University.
What about Canadians? What about Canadians who are not able to put food on the table, who lost the house, who lost the rental, all of it? Why do we care about Americans? I mean, we're Canada, right? I know the tariffs hurt Canadians as well, but I would honestly rather hear something like, oh, we signed a deal. We're going to deal about Kuzma some other time, right? And right now you're in the situation. So apparently Canada was number one priority for US to negotiate with once the tariffs came into effect. Now they don't even return our calls. And why would they, right?
Shows the current tariffs will hit American consumers.
We're expecting an adjustment of about over $2,000 to, their real household income and sort of purchasing power.
The impact could be felt in back-to-school shopping, as the tariffs will make shoes 40% more expensive, and the price of other clothes will rise by 38% because of import duties. Meantime, the impact on Canada's economy is being measured by the Royal Bank.
Okay, yes, the prices will go up. But you know what else is there? No tax on overtime. President Trump is also thinking about getting rid of the income tax in general. I'm pretty sure Texas doesn't have income tax at all. So hey, maybe they're going to pay more, but at the same time they can afford it. And that's what I'm talking about, right? I mean, President Biden didn't leave the greatest economy to President Trump, right? Inflation, all of that BS. But President Trump is taking measures so it won't affect the normal Americans, or at least not now. Do you know how he's able to afford to get rid of income tax on tips and overtimes and lower the tax brackets, all of this? Thanks to the tariffs. So, I don't know, you can look at it from the point of view like, oh yeah, the prices will go up. Yeah, but at the same time they will make more money. We will make $800 extra a year. Ridiculous. Can you imagine if we got rid of income tax, at least federal income tax, or lower it from, 21.5% to 5% to 10%? You would have thousands of dollars extra a year. That's it's crazy. Like if we lower it to 5%, you might have a 10,000 extra. And again, I don't really understand why we're paying more on federal taxes than provincials. And still, everything's bad.
In June, 92% of Canadian exports crossed into the U.S. duty-free because they are covered under the current trade agreement, leaving 8% subject to punishing tariffs.
That portion of trade is unfortunately facing an average tariff rate of 30%.
Still, the overall impact on the Canadian economy is relatively small at this point, but sectors like steel and aluminum continue to suffer. While campaigning ahead of his by-election in Alberta, Pierre Poilievre criticized Carney's handling of the trade talks.
He's been bending over backwards for the president and so far has gotten nothing in return.
Prime Minister Carney continues to say he will speak to the U.S. president when it makes sense, but there is no clear indication of exactly when that could be.
Right.
So wait, how do lines of communication remain open? And it's funny because Prime Minister Carney keeps saying that, but apparently on the July 31st, he tried to call to US the whole day and no one picked up and no one returned the call. Also, why do you leave it for the last minute? You knew about it a month ahead that it's gonna get increased, that the tariffs will go to 35% if you don't have a deal. I don't know. Regarding Pierre Poilievre, I like him as a politician. I liked his campaign. Do I think he's going to be able to reverse what's going on in Canada? Not anytime soon. And one thing, so they said that it's not affecting Canadian economy yet, or at least not as much. So explain to me the grocery prices. Why did freaking cereals got $2 more expensive than what it was 2 weeks ago? So who's increasing the prices? Maybe someone should look into that.